Hello, nerds. This is the interview I did at DiNK Denver 2018 with Joe Kelly and Steven T. Seagle, the man of action dudes. Also, Joe Kelly did like Deadpool, and Steven T. Seagle was a writer at Marvel and at DC for a while with Joe Kelly. That's how they met, but we get into that in the interview. So this episode has been sponsored by the guys over at punishshirt.com. I'm not wearing the shirt right now, but it does look something like this right here. Head over to punishshirt.com, get yourself the Generally Nerdy shirt or any of their other great shirts. And before you do, though, enjoy this interview real quick.
Quiet on the set, rolling.
Hi, I am Bitsy Telek.
Hey, I'm Hale Appleman.
I'm Walter Kane.
I'm Rene Aubergenois. Odo on Deep Space Nine.
Michael Dorn, Lieutenant Commander Worf, Star Trek The Next Generation.
Come and see me and hear me and talk to me and listen to me talk about myself.
Hey man, this is Kevin Smith, often considered generally nerdy, and you are listening to what is often considered generally nerdy.
On Generally Nerdy.
You're listening to
Generally Nerdy.
Generally Nerdy.
Generally nerdy.
Hello, nerds. We are sitting with Steven T. Seagle and Joe Kelly, the guys from Man of Action. Not Productions, I almost said it again. Entertainment.
We're all good.
I apologize for screwing up the name. I knew you guys were a thing together.
Well, we're not a thing.
Well, not like, I mean that you were business partners because of the comic book work that you've done together. But I didn't learn the name of your company until I was doing the research for the interview.
Oh, okay.
I was like, that's really cool. And then I kind of saw a little bit, and then you guys talked about it in the panel, kind of how you got together. Real quick, since I was late to the panel and couldn't record it, can we go through real quick just how the two of you became business partners and how Man of Action kind of came about?
Yeah, there's actually four of us, and we all met working on the X-Men books together, and we enjoyed each other's ideas and company, and then eventually migrated one at a time over to the Superman books, and I was the last one to go there, and enjoyed each other's idea and company, but both of those are like pressure cooker work situations. Yeah. And at some point, I think it was this guy said, the four of us should do this, but not for big companies. We should just do it for ourselves. Make stuff up together, have ideas together, work together. So we started Man of Action to do that.
And you said when you first started it, this is from your panel, when you first started that there was four of you, and you said we're not adding anyone else to the company, and here you are 12 years later? 18 years later. Wow. Yeah. That's impressive. So what has changed from those early days? Obviously, you're planning to fail, like you were talking about in the panel. Yeah. So what has changed?
I think saying we were planning is giving us too much credit.
Yeah,
you're anticipating the failure. Something.
We're just stumbling
forward. Yeah.
What has changed from those early days, just the four of you, to now 18 years later, just the four?
I think the biggest change was actually accepting that we were a proper company and a unit. So in the beginning, we would go into meetings and we would be pitching projects and sort of competing against one another, sort of for the idea.
Pick mine.
Yeah, exactly. Even though we were all in it together, and it took a little while to sort of iron that out, where we finally realized this, rising tide lifts all boats, and we all own each other's stuff, and let's just do it. And then it became like, oh, your idea is better than mine. I can shut up now. We move on. So that was probably that learning curve and that level of trust, I think, is the thing that really has changed most.
So you're talking about pitching, going back to your days with the big two. Was there any project that either of you just kind of slipped through your hands? You wanted it so bad, but it never happened?
I was mad when Joe got Daredevil, because I loved Daredevil, and I was like, at some point I'm going to do a definitive run on Daredevil. And then Joe just like, oh, they put me on Daredevil last week. I'm like, no one called, no one asked.
No, I've been really lucky. I have to say, no, honestly, like my career.
I mean, you wrote Deadpool, for Christ's sake.
Well, no, yeah, I mean, I was Spidey would have been the one that got away, and then I got to write Spidey, and because that was my childhood favorite, and we got X-Men very early in my career. I mean, it was just very lucky, right place, right time. I think it would be fun to write Batman someday, but it's okay.
That's right. You're only on Superman.
Yeah, I mean, but I wrote
you had
JLA.
A great run. Yeah, you had a great freaking run.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. I learned to love the character. But yeah, there are things I would like to do, but they weren't like ones that got away.
Right.
So to speak.
And I've just always been more about making something new. I'm just not as impressed by playing with the old toys, really.
Right.
There are people who do that great. I'm not one of them necessarily. I like to just go, like I did a book of essays. Here's something you haven't seen, comic book essays. Take that, and then my next thing will be something different.
It's funny because that's not that comic books is necessarily a new medium, but new mediums like YouTube, which is where this is going to be going mostly, that kind of thing is happening now. You see YouTubers like Nerdwriter who does video essays on random things, and like that's
TV
to challenge those forms is really fun and exciting.
Yeah, I think it's a good time creatively for that. Like TV, 5 years ago, you had to go to a pitch meeting and say, this show is just like fill in the blank. Now they expect you to show up and go, this show is like nothing you've ever seen for these reasons. And that's what they're interested in. I think that's the way good stuff happens. You know, like even Frank Miller's Daredevil. Why did I like Daredevil? Because he had a laser sharp vision of what he wanted to do, and it wasn't really Daredevil. It was Frank Miller doing Daredevil.
Right.
You know, and that's why it was good, because he did his own thing.
So, kind
and
of
Klaus
moving,
Janson.
kind of moving along, just derailing that line of questioning. Going over to I Kill Giants. Congratulations. You guys have, or you specifically, did you have much to do with the movie?
Almost nothing. But my name's all over it, so yay. Man of action.
because it's your production company. So congratulations to you both, effectively, because 72% critic aggregate on Rotten Tomatoes, but a 92% fan aggregate on Rotten Tomatoes. So,
I'd say the screenplay and the direction by Anders Walter and all the performances and everything else is what made that happen.
Yeah, well, the girl that they got to play the lead was
Madison Wolfe.
brilliant. Like, there were times where you're watching it and it's like, is she mentally ill? And then when the twist happens, oh, and yeah, brilliant. I haven't got my hands on your book yet, and I apologize for that. But right. But I've read all of your Deadpool, I promise.
And she'll be starring in the next Deadpool.
There you go.
No, Madison, she's so amazing. She's so down to earth, so much fun and bubbly. And then when she needed to be Barbara, as she put it, she's like, Barbara's savage. And I'm like, yeah, she's pretty savage. And she would snap into it.
That is an astute observation.
Yeah, and when we found her, she was, she turned 15 during the shooting of the film. So we found her over a year prior to that. So her audition tape, she's like 13 and a half. And you could still tell like how much raw talent was going on. So head and shoulders above, you know, and we saw a lot of great auditions. But she just had this something going on. And Anders didn't tell me his favorite. I got 25. They had gone through 500.
In the casting?
Yeah, in the casting.
Okay.
And so it was the 25 choices, and you know, Madison just left off the, you know, watching on your computer something shot on a cell phone.
Yeah.
And she's still amazing. And so, of course, he had picked her as well, and there was no question.
She's like the kids from Stranger Things, like seeing them outside of character even, it's like they are functioning on such a level that, and I'm sure she's the same in person, just...
Yeah, it was incredible. And everybody was like, I mean, they really got along so well. Rory Jackson, who plays the bully,
right.
was like the sweetest girl, like, so sweet. And as soon as she had to be Taylor, I mean, you almost felt bad she had to be me. But they were all incredible. Sydney and Sophia, they're wonderful young actors. They're really great.
And when I do this research, I kind of just, as I find it, it goes down. So I apologize if we're skipping back and forth. But back over to Space Ghost.
Oh.
It's quite a leap.
Yes, very, very different. I write it in one way, and then I go even more ADD when I'm reading through them. So, Space Ghost, that was just you. Not just you, but you were the writer. Steven, I apologize.
I'm not on it. But Ariel Olivetti will be mad if it was just Joe.
Yes.
Was that given to you, or did you have to fight for Space Ghost?
Oh no, I knew they were doing the Hanna-Barbera characters. I pitched to do Space Ghost. I pitched to do that darker take.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question. Was it your idea to go more realistic with the?
Yeah.
If the question is, something went darker. Was that Joe Kelly?
Touche.
The answer is yes.
Well, it could have been. We want this dark. Let's give it to Joe Kelly.
Well, but he seems bubbly. You don't guess it. But but left to his own devices.
It's a rotting core in here. That just, no, the thing was that I thought with any of these characters that you go back to, that especially if they've got a long legacy, I feel like you have to pull the thing that you felt about the character, not like your favorite story. That's for me the worst thing to do. I don't want to see a retelling. But I remember the High Adventure, but Space Ghost wore a hood. Like, he wore a dark executioner's hood as far as I was concerned. And that idea of them being in space, there was an element of, even though it was lighthearted fare at the time, it was played really straight and played serious. So that carries through for me. I feel the same way about Herculoids. I mean, I think you can take any of those things. I would make Herculoids as dark an origin story as I did with Space Ghost, but there's an element of what does it mean to be on that planet with these creatures. You know, I would dig into that. So, and Ariel was, so masterful at bringing that to life. It's a beautiful book. And,
it really, really is.
Yeah, and they took a chance on it. And I was really glad they did.
It's brilliant. Again, jumping around. I swear the last bit is Ben 10 and stuff, so it'll be for... But the next bit is Deadpool, which you also...
I'll just go get a Coke.
No.
I'll go
this
get
is
a
the
Coke
last
and
one.
have
This
a
is the
nap.
last one that I'm sending straight to Joe, and then both of you are back in this. I swear. Deadpool was that another one that they said, hey, this is a dying, you want to do something, or did you pitch to... Because Liefeld basically abandoned Deadpool when it wasn't selling. They were going to cancel it. Liefeld was like, all right, cool, whatever. And you took... I mean, I'm definitely paraphrasing the history, but...
Because Joe's actually started with a number 1, so there was nothing to cancel.
Yeah, there was... What
had happened was they basically wanted to do another X book.
Right.
So they were taking pitches for Deadpool. And Matt Idelson, who I work with on like What Ifs and stuff like that, offered me an opportunity to pitch. And a lot of people were doing this sort of straightforward mercenary thing. And I was like, he's funny. Like, let's go comedy with it. Because everyone kept saying it's going to be a 6-issue thing that gets canceled, so who cares?
Right.
And then being a new writer, they were like, oh, well, he's cheap, and let's go with him. It'll be canceled in 6 issues. And then, 3 years later was when we finally got into the point of that borderline of cancellation, where I finally had to step away because I kept thinking it was over, and it wasn't over.
That kind of stress.
Yeah, and then it didn't get canceled, so I made the wrong choice, clearly. I should have stuck around.
My friend who got me into comic books, when I started reading Deadpool, modern Deadpool, I was like, yo, this is great. What else should I read? Because he's 10 years older than me, been reading since he was 10. He goes, Joe Kelly, Deadpool, if you really like Deadpool, that's the run you need to read. And I went and bought everything.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So now, Cartoon Network, Ben 10, this is Man of Action, this is everything. Who was it that pitched? I mean, you guys said you had 20 pitches in 20 minutes.
We did.
Was that all to Cartoon Network or their Viacom?
We knew the executive was a guy who was a yes/no kind of guy.
Okay.
And so one of the worst things you can do for somebody like that is go in with a 20-minute pitch on a thing that in the first 30 seconds they know they're not going to want.
Right.
So we just thought it would be funny to take a bell and a stopwatch and just go, here's 60 seconds of this, and you start reading, and then the bell rings, and you just immediately jump ship to a totally different thing.
Yeah.
So we thought that was funny, but it was also pragmatic.
Absolutely.
And that this guy was out at 30 seconds, and you're doing 60.
Yeah.
So we did a bunch. We would just go guy, and start over. We each had 5 to do. We made up the whole shows for all of them. A lot of work. And then pitch number 8 was Ben 10.
Distilled it down to a minute each. And
Yep. And then pitch 8 was Ben 10. They just stopped us. They're like, that's it. You don't need to do any more. That's the one we want.
Wow.
And we're like, no, we're doing the rest of them because we spent a lot of time making these things up. But it was still pitch number 8, Ben 10.
That's brilliant. Pardon me. Yeah. I'm gasping for air coming upstairs. So Ben 10, you guys had 5 different Ben 10 series?
This is the fifth
right now, right? What caused you to want to reboot the series for number 5 and not just do another continuation?
Well, I mean, the audience ages up, right? So you get to a point where it's important to say, we're making a show for young kids. We love our legacy fans and fans who've been around for a long time. But, this is how you perpetuate cartoons. You got to get, new guys and gals. So it was a Cartoon Network decision ultimately to say, we're going to put a pause in and we're going to reboot, you know, and we were really happy to do it because we loved classic Ben. We loved all iterations for various, you know, in different ways. But that classic Ben, I think we could have done, you know, for another
and
couple
we did
seasons.
feel like they aged him too soon. Like, we didn't feel like we had done enough 10-year-old stories, so it was good to be able to go back and do some more.
Yeah.
Just derailed. That's why I have this. Congratulations on the renewal for the 3rd season for the reboot.
Yay! We work so far in the future that, like, we've known that for so long.
That's what it was.
It's funny that it gets announced, and then we're like, oh yeah, we have to, hey!
Yeah.
Would you have considered doing a version of Ben 10 for Adult Swim, since they did age him, and you know, you kind of progressed and your audience aged up, and now I'm sure a fair amount of them that started watching it when it first aired are watching the shows on
Oh, they're all
Adult Swim.
22 years old.
Yeah, they're all watching the stoner stuff on Adult Swim, right?
The answer is yes, but no.
But they wouldn't pick it up?
Well, it's not even, they might, but the thing is, Ben 10 is a thing.
Sure.
And if you do Ben 10, you know, the adult film, it's suddenly you've ruined what Ben 10 is, and that adult film is not going to last very long.
But not even necessarily because, and not to like shut you down, but I feel like because Rick and Morty is so successful, not that you would go that adult with it, but that would be essentially the audience. Yes?
No, yeah, but Rick and Morty is its original.
It's built
thing.
for
That's
them.
true.
You know, even if it takes its inspiration from tropes you already know and twists it. You know, if we were to do, you know, Sven 10 and it was a weird adult thing, maybe that would be. But we also, you know, like Steve was saying, like about creating original stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, to have been out there in the world and to have literally been in you know, what, 170 something countries and to be on air for 10 years, 12 years, it's been amazing. So it's awesome that exists by itself. We want to create new stuff. So we want to create an adult.
I mean, we shouldn't
animation.
interrupt an interview, but there's
go for it,
voodoo donuts being thrown.
Oh my
out.
lord!
You know you want a voodoo donut.
No, I'll wait. Thank you, though. No, that's okay. So we would love to do mature cartoons. Like Steve said, I've got a pretty dark core, and we've talked about a lot of ideas, and we have a bunch of stuff we want to pitch. But
But
it
we
would
just
be
make something new.
Yeah, wait, that was going to be the follow-up. Is there something like that in your?
We have a show
On your
right now
back
that we're
burner that you're
pitching,
pitching?
that's in that zone.
Yep.
There's like you guys said in the panel. I'm sure there's a lot you can't talk about. What though? Now that we've gone through everything, very ADD style, what can you talk about that's on the plate for Man of Action going forward?
Mega Man. So
Oh, that's right.
people who like Mega Man,
You guys are doing Mega Man.
we are. We're doing a new Mega Man animated
I'm so
series.
excited about that.
It's been announced it's coming on Cartoon Network, so we can
Yes.
even say that. We can't say much about it, except to say that it's a new, and yet all the stuff you love from Mega Man is there, and stuff you never even knew about Mega Man is there.
Animation style similar to Ben or something different?
Is
No.
discussed yet?
They've shown some art.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I feel like I've seen something for it, but
Well, there's been
was-
a couple of rounds of something.
Yeah, it's gone through an interesting process to get where it is, but DHX is the producers of it. The animation looks great, so
Sweet.
it's a CG show.
Oh, okay, nice.
Really looks.
That's right.
cool.
That
Yeah.
was the last bit I saw.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So yeah, that's been out, and they're doing an incredible job. They
Sweet.
really get it. It's a very fun show. There are definitely surprises for older fans that are. I mean, it's a 30-year-old property, right? So fans who they will have certain expectations that
Yeah.
will be surprises, and then the young kids who've only maybe seen Mega Man in like Smash Brothers, it's going to be a brand new show for them. So it's going to be really fun.
There's also, I can't remember the producer off the top of my head, but there's a producer-director who's talking about doing a live-action
Yes.
Mega
Oh,
Man.
yeah.
You guys are not related to that. at
Totally
all.
unrelated. It's the 30th anniversary of Mega Man, so there's a
Yeah,
lot
they're
of new
doing
stuff.
the anthology series out on the systems, on the
Yeah.
Switch and stuff. Yeah. So books-wise, I know you guys are doing stuff by yourselves. What are you currently pushing besides Get Naked?
Well, I am pushing Get Naked. I'm pushing it right now. Because I have to push this book because it's a weird, tough sell. It's essays, graphic novel essays. Like we've had graphic novels, I've seen graphic poetry, but I like NPR, David Sedaris style essays, and I just thought, could you do a comic book that is the comic book version of that? And it's Get Naked. 19 stories about getting naked in foreign countries all over the world and how weird that is, and my discomfort and yet the rest of the world's seeming fineness with it all.
Right.
So there's that. And then I'm doing a sequel to Camp Midnight, my kids' book from a couple of years ago, free comic book day book. That were 160 out of 240 pages done, so trucking along on that.
And my next project I'm doing with Ken Nomura, who drew I Kill Giants. It's called Immortal Sergeant, and it's very, very excited about it. It's a project I've wanted to do for a really long time. Ken and I have worked together on a couple of cool things, little things. We have a story coming out in Japan in the Tetsuka magazine about a Blackjack story, which I'm over the moon about. It was really cool to get to do that character. I love Tetsuka as a hero, creative hero of mine. And we have a couple of other small projects, but the next graphic novel is Sarge, and so I'm writing that for Ken. It'll still take a little while.
Any more Flores?
Yeah, but slow.
But very, very slow, yes.
Yes. I literally was just telling somebody that, I left the cliffhanger. Every once in a while you write yourself into a little bit of a corner. And I wrote this cliffhanger, which I knew how I could get out of the cliffhanger, but there was some plot stuff that I just felt like, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it. And I got caught up in plot, which at our thing today we were talking about how plot can really kick your butt.
It's the wallpaper.
And I finally woke up one day, and you have one of those moments where you're like, oh my God, I know how to start the next issue. And I can do it now, It was a weird moment, but yeah, I have to convince Max that I'm serious. So when I give Max a full script and he can see it, he'll make the time to do it. Max is very committed to finishing the book. It's essentially would be 8 more issues would be the ideal.
And then that would be
it. Yeah. So 4 chunks of 4. So keeping with the theme.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
It was our pleasure.
Thank you.
You have no idea how much it was my pleasure.
I guess we should have asked first, is it like a white supremacist website?
No.
Like, we're just like, sure.
I mean,
That's only
I do do a second podcast. No, it's a little trolly. That's about as deep as it goes. This is totally just nerd stuff. It's not political.